Okay, welcome back, guys. In this video we are going to continue from where we stopped in CSS, how we can style our web pages using an external style sheets. Okay, now yeah, we were talking about the model box. Yeah, the model box. Now I told you in every HTML element there's a box that surrounds it, even if we don't see it. How can we see that box? Now we can see that box when we try to add what we call border to the element. Now border 1 pixel dotted black, we can change this back to solid. Okay, all right, now this is it. Now has returned back to solid. Okay, now there's what we call padding. We're trying to talk about padding. We're trying to talk about padding. Padding property defines a space inside the box. Now there's a space inside the box. Yeah, the space around your element here. Now we can exploit that to check that out. Okay, let's see if we can add padding. Let's say 10 pixel. Okay, now let's check that out. What's gonna happen? Okay, you've seen. Now we've created a space. Yeah, 10 pixel here, 10 pixel here, 10 pixel here. If this document is long enough to get to here, it's gonna also give a 10 padding, 10 pixel padding. So if we reduce it to, let's say, 5, the space is gonna reduce. Okay, you've seen that. So that's just how it is. Okay, now let's talk about also this margin. The CSS margin properties defines the margin or the space outside the box. Now there's a space outside the box between the heading and tag and the paragraph. Okay, now there's a space. You can also use we use margin property and the value to define the margin outside the box. Now let's see this. Let's check this out. Let's add margin to this margin. Now let's say 30 30 30 pixel outside the box. Okay, now is there any much difference? Okay, let's use 50. Sorry, we're supposed to use colon, not semicolon. 50. Okay, now 50 pixel, 50 pixel, and 50 pixel. Let's increase it to 100. Okay, you can see that 100 here, 100 here, and 100 here. Okay, now that's padding. That's margin for you. Now the margin defines the space outside the box, while padding defines the space inside the box. Now okay, now let's talk about there's what we call ID attribute. Now all the examples we've used now to style the HTML element in a general way. Yeah, we've used p, we've used what body and stuff like that, h1 to add style through CSS. And now we are going to be doing what we call ID attribute. And ID attribute is a special attribute that we use to also define to add style to our web pages. Okay, now for example, now let's check this out. For example, let's say, let's change this to, let's remove this. Let's change this. Okay, let's give this paragraph an ID attribute of ID of let's say para. Okay, now you see that the style that was there will be gone. Okay, it has returned to its default style. Okay, now what was the, okay, let's check that out. Now for example, let's give this a, let's use that ID to style that form. Now the selector for ID is what we call is hash. Okay, the selector for ID is hash. Now if we add hash here and write para, now you see everything is gonna come back. Okay, we've added that, it's gonna come back. So what it does is, now the ID, this hash is used to select this ID. Okay, now what the p hash para means, now the para inside p. Okay, the para inside p. Now I hope you understand what I mean by that. The para inside p, that's this ID here inside p. Do you understand? Now the attribute, now if, let's remove this, you see nothing is gonna happen, everything is gonna return back. Okay, now that means we've not selected anything. So if we can add this to that, now it's gonna select this ID. Okay, all right, okay. We can also have we also have what we call class attribute. Now this is used to define a style. This class attribute is used to define a special style of element. Okay, all right, now let's check something. Now let's change this to class, para class. Now when we are doing CSS, we really have time to really check this out. It's a very broad topic, CSS. So now the selector for class, the selector for class, just like hash is a selector for ID, is what we call dot, just dot like this. Now you see the class has, the name has, the color has changed to red. Okay, now let's try to view that in the browser. Nothing is not gonna change because it's a valid selector. Now we've added style to that class. Now the whole of this paragraph now has been assigned, a class has been assigned to it, and okay, and has been assigned to it, so we can use that to style this paragraph. Okay, now if we change this name to class, let's say box. Now let's see what's gonna happen. It means we have no box. Okay, now when we go to our CSS and change this to box, now you're gonna see that it's gonna change. Now it's gonna return. Okay, just like that. Or if for example, let me create another element and add a different class ID. Okay, now let's create another paragraph and add a class box. This is an example of a class. I told you class is used to define a special type of an element. Okay, all right. ID is also used to define a special style for one special element. For one, I'm gonna really explain the difference between ID and class in our main CSS tutorial. Okay, all right. Wow, do we still have time? Wow, it's really broad. Don't worry, we're gonna work this out. Okay, now we have class box here, the box class. Now let's change this to para. Now let's try to view that in the browser. You see that the the ID is gonna be what we is the only thing that's gonna be styled here. Alright, this class is not styled, so we can style this class by doing something like this. Let's, for example, let's say P, the class in P class, let's style it. Let's give it a color of red. Now the font size of 150 150%. Alright, I'm not gonna use pixel now. Okay, let's use the normal font. Border 1 pixel dotted green. Okay, now the padding of 10 pixel, sorry, padding of 10 pixel, and the margin of, sorry, you have to always terminate our line there with a semicolon. Margin of 20 pixel. Okay, now let's check this out. Sorry, something is wrong. P box. Sorry, there's nothing like class there, so we use that to select. Okay, you've seen the difference now. Okay, this is red and this is dotted green. Okay, it's just as simple as that. Okay, let me just remove this margin and see where it's gonna start. You can see there's no margin here. Okay, let's add, let's say minus 20. You see, it has entered inside. Okay, that's just that. Okay, all right, that's for the class attribute. In older HTML versions, several tags and attributes were used to style documents. These tags and attributes are not supported in HTML5, so avoid using this font, center, and strike element. Avoid using the color and BG attribute. Those ones are outdated. They are not included here in HTML5. What I'll be showing you guys here is purely HTML5. Okay, now this is where we're gonna end this. Okay, this is where we're gonna end this. Now please subscribe and like my videos, and it's gonna really encourage me. Practice makes perfect. So practice, try to work on yourself, and very soon you're gonna become a professional web designer. I'm not a professional though. I'm also learning. So I'm doing this. While I'm doing this, I'm also learning too. Okay, I know you might become something bigger than me. Okay, alright, I'm gonna end this now. See you in the next video.